Okay, hello students. Now we are going to continue to write dihybrid cross. Open your books and see which are the two parents. I am sure because last time you have noted down in your books. Your first parent is pure tall plant with round seeds, and second parent taken in the cross is pure dwarf plant with wrinkled seeds. Now we have to start writing the cross. Okay? Now you also start writing along with me, so that once you start writing in a stepwise manner, you will understand it better. Okay? How is the sequence? We always write phenotype first. Okay, that is external appearance we are writing. So our first parent is tall plant. Round seeds. This is crossed with dwarf plant, wrinkled seeds. Finished, students? Understood? What we have done in the first step, we have written phenotype of the parents, that is, how do two parents externally appear. External appearance is phenotype. So tall plant with round seeds crossed with dwarf plant with wrinkled seeds. Now we have to write genotype. Okay. Now you know that in monohybrid cross one alphabet was used. For tall and dwarf we had used T, and for round wrinkled we had used letter R. Same method we are going to continue. Okay. So what I will do first, for a tall plant I will write capital T twice. Okay. So capital T and capital T are for tall character, but there is one more character in the cross, that is round seeds. So how do I write round seeds? Its genotype, I have to use letter R, but round is dominant, and that is why, what is the practice? If character is dominant, we should write capital form of the letter. That's why I am writing capital R, capital R. Okay. So now have a look at the board. Capital T, capital T, capital R is genotype of tall plant with round seeds. Okay. Don't get confused. Finish writing genotype for one character first. So what I have done, I have finished writing both T for height, that is for tall, and then for the second character, that is which is for seeds, I am writing R later on. Same method I will use for writing genotype of the other parent. Now dwarf is recessive, correct? I have to use letter T, but for recessive character, what is the rule? You should use small case or lower case form of the letter, that is why small t. So tall is dominant over dwarf, this is what I come to know, and wrinkled seed. So character wrinkled is recessive. So, between round and wrinkled, I have to use small r for wrinkled. So, small r, okay. So, capital T, capital T, capital R for tall round, and small t, small r for dwarf and wrinkle combination. Okay. So, this is how in the genotype there are going to be 4 alphabets for each parent. Okay. Now, gametes. Next step is writing gametes. Remember what I told you earlier, how to write gametes? Gamete contains 50% genes than parents. Okay? So, if you remember our earlier examples, even though in the genotype letter was twice, in the gamete we wrote it only once, because out of 2 only 1 remains in the gamete or 1 is passed on into the gamete, as gamete has only 50% chromosomes or 50% genetic material. Same rule is applicable here. Okay? Now, while writing gametes of the first tall round parent, see how to write gamete. Between 2 capital T, that is between the 2 alleles for tallness, out of 2 alleles only 1 will come into gamete. So, there will be 1 capital T, and from 2 alleles for round seeds 1 will be passed on to the gamete. So, capital R, which means that tall round parent produces only 1 type of gametes with capital T, capital R. Similarly, the other parent will produce gamete with small t, small r, because what will happen? From 2 alleles for dwarfness, 1 is passed on into the gamete, and from 2 alleles from wrinkled character, only 1 is passed on into the gamete. So, this is how gametes are to be written. Okay, it is not difficult, only thing is you have to remember that gametes have only 50% genetic material if you compare with the parents. That is why from 2 alleles present in the parent, gamete will have only 1. But here we are already considering 2 characters, one is height and other is shape of the seed. So, here what is happening? In the gamete you should have representation of both characters. Capital T is representing height and R is representing shape of the seed. Okay, so remember students, in the dihybrid cross, the 2 letters which are present in the gamete, they should represent both the characters which you are considering in the cross. Okay. Now, moving on to F1 generation. Okay, now we have to write F1 generation in this cross. F1 generation is union of gametes. So, I am showing union of gametes. Now, look here. If I write capital T and capital R first and small t and small r afterwards, then this sequence capital T, capital R, small t, small r, this becomes difficult Okay. Instead, what you should do is, you must write alphabet T first. Okay, so what is there? One capital T is there and one small t is there. So this I am writing first, and then I move on to the second character. So for second character there is capital R and small r. Now for you this is much easier to understand. Okay. So in F1 generation, what you should do is, any one character you finish writing first. So what I have done here, for height character I have written capital T and small t first, and then for seed shape I have written R. Now follow this method to write F1 generation, it will be easier for you. Now capital T, small t, capital R, small r, this is genotype of F1 generation. That means this is the combination of genes present in the plant. But how is the phenotype? If these plants grow, what will be their appearance? See now, in the appearance, combination is capital T, small t. Now from monohybrid cross, you know that capital T, small t, if come together, tall is dominant over dwarf. So same rule is applicable here. Here also height will be tall because there is capital T. So capital T will dominate small t completely, and that is why plants are going to be tall. And between round and wrinkled, round is dominant. So even though wrinkled is there, we will not see wrinkled seeds. Seeds will be all round. So tall, round. So students, in F1 generation, all plants are going to be tall with round seeds. I am sure you must have understood till this step. Now we have to write F2 generation. But how do we obtain F2 generation? By selfing F1 generation. So I am writing that selfing F1 generation step. Sometimes people write it or sometimes people skip this particular step. But I suggest that students should write this step so that your next step of writing F2 generation, you won't make any mistake. Okay? Now we are selfing F1 generation. Selfing F1 generation means there will be only one parent, no two plants will be in selfing, which means that same genotype will be repeated. As you have only one plant, your plant is male as well as female parent, agreed? So genotype is same in selfing F1 generation. So this is how I have written selfing F1 generation. Now we have to write gametes. Okay, now students, writing gametes is very, very important. If there is mistake in writing gametes, your F2 generation will be wrong. Okay? So now see how to write gametes. Okay? Now first rule of writing gametes is every gamete should have one allele for height and other allele for seed shape, because these are the two characters we have taken in the cross. Okay, remember, I am repeating this. Every gamete should have one allele for height and one allele for seed shape. Means every gamete should have letter T and R. So now let us find out how to write various possible gamete combinations. Now, what may happen is, I will consider first capital T is forming combination with capital R. Okay. Now capital T is forming second possible combination with small r. Okay, so what I have done now, with tall character or with capital T allele, I have written both the combinations. Okay. Now, with small t also I have to do same method. Small t combining with capital R. And small t forming gamete with small r. Okay, now have a look at the board again. See what I have done. With tall character, I have considered both the combinations, that is tall going with character round, and second time tall combining with wrinkled, that is small r. Then with dwarf character, again two possible combinations, dwarf combining with round character and dwarf combining with wrinkled character. Okay. So these are four possible combinations. Okay. This particular step is very, very important. So see how I have drawn arrows and how I have written combinations. Initially you can practice writing like this, arrows, show the arrows so that there won't be any mistake. Okay, because see, in these combinations if there is mistake, your F2 generation will be wrong. Now these are four gametes produced by one parent. We have one more parent, correct? Now this parent will also produce gametes in the same manner, which means here what has happened now? If it is a dihybrid cross, F1 hybrid produces 4 gametes. Okay, students, I am repeating this. In dihybrid cross, F1 generation after selfing produces 4 types of gametes. So total we will have now 8 gametes. 4 gametes produced by one parent, 4 gametes produced by other parent. Okay, see now here we have total 8 gametes now. So our board is going to be checkerboard, or that Punnet's square is going to be a big one. Now how to write F2 generation? This is what we are going to do the next part, F2 generation. Okay, now quickly students, take a pencil and scale with you. You have to draw a table. Remember, earlier we had drawn a table of 3 rows and 3 columns. Now how many rows and columns? See, gametes are 4 produced by one parent. To this number 4 you add 1, so 4 plus 1, 5. Draw table of 5 rows and 5 columns. Okay, do it quickly in your books. I am also doing it on the board. Okay, students, are you done with drawing table of 5 rows and 5 columns? See here, columns I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 rows and 5 columns I have written. Now in the earlier, just like your earlier F2 generation of monohybrid cross, we will be writing F2 generation for dihybrid cross. Horizontally, suppose we write gametes of the male parent, and vertically we are writing gametes of the female parent. Now what I am doing, one gamete in one box. Okay, see now, I am writing capital T, capital R first, then second capital T, small r, small t, capital R, and small t, small r. So what I have written? 4 gametes produced by male parent. So I consider first as a male parent, second as female parent. Now female parent will also produce similar type of gametes. So I am repeating this sequence in the first column. Capital T, capital R, capital T, small r, small t, capital R, small t, small r. Okay. Now have a look at the board. I have written first row, first column. Now we have to write remaining combinations. See now how many combinations we have to write. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 into 4, 16 combinations we have to write. Okay? That is why writing in the tabular form is much easier method. You will not make any mistake. Okay? That is the advantage of writing in Punnet's square. Now logic is same. Corresponding row, corresponding column, that we have to consider and write every combination. Okay. So here also again I am giving numbers to columns, column 1, column 2, column 3 and column 4. Okay. Then row 1, row 2, row 3 and row 4. Okay. So finish this writing in your books, and for next class be ready with your a square or with your table to write combinations. Okay. So, I will stop here for today and will continue next time. Thank you.